Geshe yung gre Geshe yung no. They do.
Okay, so hello, welcome. You can sit, please. Welcome to this very special session. You're all very fortunate to have here today. We have Geshe Thabkhe, who graduated from the program here at Sera in 2018 as a Geshe Larampa. And he was part of the first group of monks to study at Emory University in Atlanta in the US as part of the Emory Tibet Science Initiative. And now he's part of the debate research team and is teaching science to the monks here at Sera, as well as continuing to learn research methods. He is the director of the Modern Education Department here at Sera, under which this debate school that we're doing is a part of. So thank you, Geshe Thabkhe, for being here, and please.
So, welcome everybody, and I'm really glad that you are coming to here and showing some interest to our program. So I'm really glad to meet you, and you all welcome. So yeah, probably this the place is a little noisy. So we're supposed to be held to this event to the other place, which is much quieter and nicer. But unfortunately, this time there's a lot of outside monks come for seeking for the Geshe exams. That's why they, we have to adjust to move here, and also construction's going here, and it's a little noisy. But that's how it is. So yeah, and that's. And I actually don't know what kind of things should I talk. And Daniel told me you should teach or talk about the emptiness. And then I say yes. And but right now in my mind it's really empty now. What should I talk? So what?
We are empty, so it's all right.
Okay, that's everything is emptiness. Which is good.
Yeah.
So which is the subject? That's yeah. Actually, we don't have to take very formally. So if you have any requests or any questions, that would totally fine. And otherwise, I will go a little bit traditional method or tradition what we do. Is there anybody question or anything related to this monastery or program or topic that I'm going to cover to the maybe next few days? Yeah, I just ask to the Daniel says supposed to I came to almost every morning, so we have a little more time. If you have any special request to know about what the specific concept that's Buddhist philosophy talking about.
I guess we'll go as after today we'll have something to fill in our empty minds, so maybe we'll have questions afterwards.
Okay. Yeah. It's yeah, that's good. So yeah, one of the things is this time, we held in the debate session last winter too. There's lots of other foreigners too, but this time it's only we have Indians, which is good because this traditional origin comes from India, right? Nalanda traditions. So which is really we are glad to. That's kind of giving back to the what is the origin come from. So yeah. I think first of the reason why we are trying to introduce to the debate into English we have a system already in the monastery. We study, more than 20 or 20, even 25 years in individual study, which is very long time. But and the outside people who are non-speaking Tibetan is very hard to understand, right? So, but the debate system in English is very new, right? Completely new. So there need to be lots of work has to done the thing and the Venerable Namjong, all these things. So it's a not easy, but we have to, at least we have to, start to know how I mean, it's a really great for you all guys to support, to interest, to show that's it gives to, reinforce that we want to do more about that. As you will see how to debate monks, they will going to the Chera, right? Sometime tonight or tomorrow. Yeah, I will be John with you. So you will see, you can feel how the monks debate and all these things. Unfortunately, they're all speaking in Tibetans, but anyway, you can, glimpse. So why we reason to need to be those debate, or maybe if we call more literal meaning is, analytical meditations. In nowadays in if you look at the internet, or there's too many people interested to showing to the meditations. Why we need meditation at the first place. And of course they have one of the mainstream, one of the famous one is mindfulness meditation, right? Everybody loves. But then I had a couple people who are taking very seriously mindfulness meditation, very long time. And then they're asking me, what the next? Mindfulness meditation is great. It's worked to me to calm down. And I'm taking care of this. It's good. When you are really, stressed out or really busy thought and everything, it's mindfulness meditation is great, right? It's take slow down and calm down a little bit and focus on the what you have present moment and those things. But then people who are taking quite long time, and they're asking me, what should next? What should I do in the next? So, and in that sense, we need to beyond the, current, mainstream of mindfulness meditation. So, we all know mindfulness meditations kind of focus on the present moment and, just relax and feel, whatever sensation right now and everything, right? So, and you have to go beyond that. So in that sense, in debate, it's actually it's a very component of part of the academic. It looks completely academic career, but also it's a meaning of lots of uh, experience or practice if you take to very internally, and then you will have some sort of feel there's some sort of experience or cultivating moment. So yeah, that's the sense. That's the, I think it's one of the main reason we try to understand of the debate study. Okay, so part of the subject, maybe we are going to, I don't know how much I can talk, especially English. And this is the first time I'm formally to talking in English and those hardest things. Usually I never study the English very formally. So I study English with my learning science. So that's why I know the terminology of the science. But in coming to in the Buddhist philosophy, although I'm quite, I mean, expert or I don't know, it's a graduate from this monastery in philosophy in Tibetans, but not in English. So I need to help maybe Namjong, or we just talk to back and forth. So part of the reason why we giving lots of credit or talking about the subject of emptiness and impermanent or selflessness, and then this is a need to be really cultivate of your intelligence or wisdom, not only focus on the one subject. You need to be more like analytical to cultivating. You have to talk to and a lot of things inside your brain or whatever you talk. So that's why debate is really need to be cultivating to sharpening your mind, um, all these things. So at the beginning, it's a hard to come up to the argument. So that's why we need to be talking with the person to person to, or group or, discussing way. And then finally, you have to talk to the yourself. And you have to argument for the yourself and within your mind. So part of the reason is, I mean, the main reason as we're talking about, when you're talking about the medicines, and all the modern medicines, when you start talking about you have to talk about the disease, right? What kind of disease, that why you need to the medicine first place, because of there's so many diseases. At the same thing, why we need all this concept impermanent emptiness, because of that there's a lot of destruction of mind. So that's why we need to, and then why so important of the emptiness and impermanent and selflessness, and because of the too many, negative emotions, you know, um, so I mean that if I briefly or say is the all the suffering or all the negative emotion comes from root of the ignorance. So in order to get rid of ignorance, you need to be cultivate your wisdom or intelligence. So what is the highest intelligence or wisdom that is to understanding emptiness? That's why we give lots of credit to the emptiness. But then how do we understand emptiness? And then you have to go all the way to down to the at the beginning, because otherwise, you can't make sense just, directly to talking to the emptiness. And that's why we have spent lots of time to understand the emptiness, and then you just go all the way to down to the, step. And that's the, my main theme to talk. So is there any question or any um, things? Yeah. Okay, so in traditionally, whenever we are doing or to even study or practice or puja at the monastery or monks, or it's a more like a dharma, and then the first thing is you have to do set up to the very good motivations. That's traditional beginning to do that. So motivation, it's will make whatever you are doing practice, whether it's going to be, it's a great or not maybe great. It's really up to your motivations. That's why when we are receiving teaching to the formal teaching from teachers, and always talk about what we should do at the beginning. You have to set up to the very good motivations. Motivation is to make everything is the directions. So what kind of motivation if you can base? We can. It's nothing too wrong. Modern time people are meditating because of the health. There's nothing wrong, because if we don't have a good health, there's nothing we can do, right? So that is nothing wrong, right? So one of the things nowadays is sometimes, if you are really traditional teachers, they are hesitate to doing meditation, all these things for reason for health. No, no, no. This is not the spiritual point. You have to, aim is a higher realizations. And then some people say, oh, so that's good because at the health means reduce of your control to your negative emotion, which is the essence of the dharma. I agree too that also it's good. But then if you do further, okay, let's say to good for come down to my mind, and that will come down in the my, make to the good environment, at least in your home, and then your children or your, whatever husband or your, it's a calm down, everything calm down, and that's really create to the good environment in your family. And then, and also children to see when you come down, and children to see that is great. And the old saying is, children doesn't listen to what you says, but they follow to what you does. That's really true. If you are, calm down in even things, not going well, but you are calm down, and this is it really helps to, in your family or friend. This is one of the goal to, learning meditation, or, learning even emptiness or whatever the topics. But then we can go beyond that. It's a, you can, I mean, it's a, the practically you just beginning level, but you can go is something, as much as a higher. Oh, you can say, oh, this is beneficial to the society. If I do better, and then, some of the my environment doing better, and that will goes to the society, and then eventually goes to the in the world. I mean, so to speak. So in that sense, in dharma, when we're talking about the highest motivation to goal for the others, maybe all sentient beings or all other peoples, that is the highest goal. That's the setup to the your motivation. Whatever, even though you're doing things very small, but your goal has to be, or motivation has to be really big, because that makes your thing you are doing is become great, right? Or, I mean, the if you are really believer, they have a, certain power comes through your motivations, or, invisible way, or invisible way, or without, knowing, so to speak. So that sense, I mean, even though I'm talking, you're listening, or we sharing, whatever the producing knowledge has to be, very large goal. That the sort of, I'm doing this, although maybe I'm not achieve, or although may not be understood at all, but at least I will try for sake of other people's, or sake of, in Buddhist, classical terminology is called all the sentient beings, including animals, all these things. I think I'm sure God, your kind of that culture is quite familiar. You know, that's a sense. So part of the reason, we all know that, in I think in India culture is, nothing strange when you are carrying to the suffering from the fish, or suffering from, you know ant, or all this insect. I think it's we all believe there's some sort of mind and suffering, all these things. Some cultures it's hard to accept, especially scientific community. I know when I'm talking about the suffering for them, they say, "Are you sure they have a suffering? Are you sure they have a mind? We haven't yet proved they have a consciousness or what." So that sort of speak. But so that's why one of the I really like to the Buddhist philosophy give a lot of credit to the view or perspective. It's so important. So when we go to the maybe beach or some oceans, people killing to the fish every day, thousands of fish killing. But then what they have, they even never sense of guilty because of their view. So some of view, the fish doesn't have any feeling. Fish doesn't have any suffering. If you have a sort of that perspective, you don't have even hesitate. Sometimes killing without any necessary, right? So if you have a sense or your view, they have a mind, and they will suffering. It's like us. They feel like, oh, I am, or kind of self-awareness, and in that sense, oh, it's at least you are trying to avoid. So that's why the perspective is very view is very important to, although it's, sometimes people say, okay, philosophy is philosophy and it doesn't come to practice. That's, that's completely wrong, because I think it's, I mean, at least my point of view, your view is very important. That way, it, according to that way, you can, behavior or your activation comes. That's why, at least you have to kind of, in the Buddhist point of view, and you have to understand every, sentence being, or almost, every living being have a sense of, trying to avoid to the suffering and to want to, peace, or, sort of that. So that sense, view is important, you know. Yeah, that's sense. So back to my talk is the, we need to be set up very good motivation, whatever things you to do, because it's your action follow to the motivations. That's why, even though trying to understand emptiness, but why you trying to understand emptiness? And then it has to be, I mean, it's nothing wrong to understand, maybe there's a good cultivation or meditation, good for health, that's good. And to get rid of my negative emotion, that's good. That is also one of the main goal. And also another is the try to help to the other people to, that's the, highest goal. So that's why one of the good thing is understanding emptiness really helps to the cultivating from compassion and bodhicitta. So it has to go together in proper practice, or proper, highest practice to the emptiness. So you cannot say I'm trying to understand only emptiness without, to compassion, or without, bodhicitta. That's not possible. You have to understand, within the, because of the, you need to be goal, you need to be to use to the, and eventually to help to the other people. That's the, goal. Yeah, am I correct? Right? Maybe you can correct me, or any question.
Yeah, and the question, you said the essence of Dharma in some sense to maybe set a object, universal kind of perspective or view. Am I right on this? Like Dharma, the essence of Dharma is like you described that it can be many levels,
Mm-hmm.
like self-help, and then the friendliness, and the social, and then the sentient beings. So, so my question is the dharma itself could be a perspective or view, or it helps in kind of devising a universal view or perspective?
Okay. Yeah, if I correct, correct me in Namjo. If you, if I, it's feel free, right? We are just basically discussion. Okay. So this is good questions, because it's a dharma, or Buddhisms. It's a, when we're talking about some people talking about only, emptiness and the selflessness, or mindfulness meditation. And the modern time people, some of the people say the mindfulness is the meditation's heart of the, heart core of the Buddhism, or that's everything of the Buddhism. And that's not true. Actually Buddhism is, it's very many layers, or many different subjects. So I think it's one of the His Holiness Dalai Lama. It's a very cleverly to divide to the three categories. Buddhism has to be. There's a lot Western. If you look at the internet, they have a, lots of articles, the argument. Buddhism is whether religions or not religions, or atheists or non-atheists, or is something like that. Some talking about the science of mind, or all these things. But His Holiness put very clear. I completely agree that Buddhism has three parts: Buddhist science, Buddhist philosophy, and Buddhist religions. So it's not completely talking about the, completely talking about the, that we can analyze too easily through, there's a lot of part we can analyze this to, to understand. And there's a lot of talking about the physical things, or basic description over our emotions, and those I think is a it's a Buddhist science. And then talking about the emptiness, in what do you call it? Tawakadak chaje shila kala. Tawakadak chaje sakje tamje dungewa ngazu te yoran duje tamje mita wa sakje.
Four immeasurables.
Yeah, no, that's the same shirwa. For seals or
Seals. Yeah. Four seals.
yeah, can you describe
Okay,
that?
sorry. So these are the four seals that are in common with all of the Buddhist philosophical tenet systems, and they are all compounded phenomena are impermanent, all contaminated phenomena are in the nature of suffering, all phenomena are empty and selfless, and only nirvana is peace.
Right, that's correct. So this is I put the Buddhist philosophy. There's it's a essence of the Buddhist philosophy. But then there have a lot of the Buddhist religions. It's a lot of come from your belief, even though without proof immediately, but you just believe on these things. So it's a really three component: Buddhist science, and the Buddhist philosophy, and the Buddhist religions. So, and His Holiness described that, okay, when we talk from the common people, we just talk about the Buddhist science. You don't have to be, believe, or you don't have to be faith to Buddha, whatever. And then we can talk a lot of things with a common ground. But in order to talk Buddhist religion, then you have to do religions person, or you need to be also believe in that completely too. So am I kind of answering to your questions?
If I may interject, what I understood the question is whether Buddhism is like a view, philosophical view, or is it a way to expand your view to include not just yourself, but all beings, all sentient beings like this?
Yeah.
So in my opinion, just to elaborate, what again Thabkhe was saying is, since Buddhism is very broad, within that tent of Buddhism, actually both are there, right? So
Right.
you have a philosophical view that all sentient beings are wanting to be happy and not wanting to suffer. So that's a fact. Then based on that fact, we train our mind, then we need to care that sentient beings are suffering or are happy. So then there's methods to train in compassion and loving kindness and all that. But it has to be predicated first on the observation that all sentient beings don't want to suffer.
Okay, so it's a view, but it's more universally inclusive. So in that sense, like it's a philosophical that. So it's the philosophy is to recognize or acknowledge the sufferings of every sentient being.
But again, within the philosophy, there's so much there. So one aspect of that, is talking about the material world. One aspect is talking about the internal world. One aspect is talking about, so many things. So, it's hard to pin down, the philosophy is just this. I think that's the point. It's very broad. But there's methods that kind of state how the facts about the world and sentient beings. And then there's methods to train in cultivating more beneficial states of mind, right? Like loving kindness and compassion.
Yeah, that's correct, exactly. So although when we saying usually talking about the emptiness or impermanent, and then people feel like talking about the philosophical things. No, it's not philosophical things only. It's also have a lot of cultivating things. It really need to be cultivated to, and then because of the otherwise only merely philosophy is there's no goal. You have to be goal to to be enhanced developing your personal or something like that. It has to be that. So it's the talking about the emptiness. You have to understand first of the view, and then how to apply it to how to think about that, and how to cultivate to that. And what we are trying to understand, maybe questions, what is the beneficial, if I understood it correctly, emptiness, right? And that's why you care about emptiness. Otherwise, why we care about emptiness, right? You know, so in that sense, it's a view is the very, very important at the beginning. And based on that, and then you can cultivate, you can act, and you can develop. So that's sense what I'm talking to. So other thing is, in traditional Buddhist, Buddhist philosophy, in order to proper understand emptiness, you need to be understanding of the other's views. Like, for example, impermanent. Impermanent, and maybe we are going to focus a little bit impermanent, what that means. Sometimes it's a little hesitated to talk other people when you talk starting because of the impermanent and death and suffering. There's our one of our higher the teachers, and he the giving to us to the kind of his experience. If you go to the West country, don't talk about at the beginning all this suffering or impermanent or death. People don't appreciate. But I think it's okay here because that's the fact. We need to be introduced to the fact. That's the what it's a reality. Whether you sometimes whether you like or not, it's a true, right? We all see in the everyday. But the only thing is, how can we, reduce fear, or how can we understood better that nature of reality? That's the only we can do, right? There's things some we can do nothing, but there's something we can do, you know. Yeah. So that sense, we need to be understand what is the impermanent, right? Impermanent sense, they have a lot of levels. The very easy level is, it's a death. It's a part of the impermanent. We all experience that. We all sin it. Somehow we all, have to go through, no matter whether we like it or not. So there's maybe way we are not afraid or reduce fear or all these things. There may be, but nobody can avoid to the going to be that tragedy, unfortunately. So, but that's the one ways. Another thing is, you know, how can we understood everything is impermanent, even moment to moment when we're talking, and then at the time is going to pass, and all the the object is all these things. So even myself to go have to go through. So that's it's sometimes in classical Buddhist to remember to the impermanent or trying to understand impermanent. It's very good for the zundu la kala diligence lo zundu kala lo jong chi gi na ra so practice chi gi na de la na zo mita wa pe khe chen bo de la gro
Diligence, maybe enthusiasm,
enthusiasm,
perseverance.
yeah, perseverance. So it's a sometimes I mean maybe I'm going to talk about one short story. There's a people, one of the maybe PhD student or something. He was announcing he did research on the procrastinating, right? That's we all doing delay. And then he announced that he studied about that research. And then moment he, announced that he studied research, all these things, he got lots of received so many letters in professors, PhD student, all the college student, and many other levels. Why? Because everybody has they have a problem to the procrastinating or laziness. Everybody has problem. They think he found some sort of way to how to solve this problems, and then he does actually a little bit. And then also I'm also listening when he talking. Oh, what should the method he will going to talk about to the eventually, and then eventually he says, okay, think about limit time, and then they just boxes. okay, let's assume we are living in 100 years. We have a maybe 100 box, and now we are using to the every box every years, and then there's no additions. Every time it's going to be. So that's really is the Buddhist point of view, is in the perspective of impermanent. Because when you feel that, oh, I should do now, I should do practice. Especially Buddhists are talking about everybody think I will practice in Dharma maybe later of my life or after I retire, or everybody think like that. Then who knows? You have a time to the retire, and there's no guarantee that we're gonna stay to the until you are going to retire. So that's sense, you know, impermanent make you to make more diligence, or kind of pushing you to do whatever things you do as the on time, or quickly. That sense. So see, there's a application, or right application of the there's the view and application goes together. So, and that's the way we are spending to lots of time to in debate, try to understand what the really impermanent. Even we talk about the subparticle levels, and or space, and everything you can, so you can argument, or you can brought up all this topic in within the debate in the coming next few days. You can debate all whether are you sure this all everything is impermanent, all these things. So that's why one of the views that going to spend to understand impermanent more details. And then next level, try to understand of the selflessness. So in order to understand properly selflessness, you need to be little what you feel right now. So like even I mean I should little forget, but even try to understand to impermanent, and also what normally what I fear, what my attitude of things. For example, we all like in that planning to what should do in the tomorrow, even though nobody guaranteed to surely to can stay to the tomorrow, but our attitude, our normally taking to granted that I'm surely to living tomorrow or next week, or in the in we all know that somehow we are going to die, but we never kind of accepted I'm going to die tomorrow. We never come across like that mind easily, unless you are very thinking or logical mind come up. So we just take granted I will do tomorrow and I will do next year everything. So look at that attitude. That attitude we call like tangzin la kalagre, tangzin,
Grasping at permanence.
right, grasping impermanent. So which is not, it's as this is sort of delusions, or part of the delusions, because it's not true, because everybody has a sort of that kind of attitude, but we know one of the or in people in the world will be no more true through that and so see, in Buddhist philosophy, whenever we try to understand that concept, it's against what my attitude, what kind of grasping, what I have in the in without analyzing. So look at this. In order to understand proper impermanent perspective, you have to come in your mind what my attitude, what you should I do. And then some of them is very very latent way. Nga tsu pala nye, that's ngun zin che kabo, pala nye la garo.
Difficult to
Yes,
identify
right.
because it's latent.
It is very latent. So it's we. I mean, I hope you will let us sense how we have those kind of sense, very very latent, to everything's not impermanent, everything's not not emptiness. So sort of that. So so this, you see, we, in order to understand the proper emptiness and all these things, you need to be really, really self-reflections. You tend to be deep down to the, what kind of mind or, grasping what I have. So that's, we need to be to habituate. We need to be start to build, habituate reflection ourselves, not only all the object. We have to kind of, try to um habituate or try to starting to understand to the ourselves, what kind of attitude or what kind of emotion, what kind of mind, what I have. So that's is really important. That's why, it's I think it's the Buddha taught about the, you are the your own master, you are the your own, evils, because everything comes to your mind. So yeah, I think yeah, that's I think today. So we will going to talk more about in coming days. Yeah, if you have any questions, maybe today I should stop a little earlier because I have to go to Mysore. So yeah, any questions?
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
Could you please describe for some of us how to understand the difference between motivation and ambition?
Oh, okay. Motivation and ambitions. Yeah. Um, hmm. I think it's a ambition is more like kind of close. That's, you have to really achieve something very soon, or you have to real more. I think you have to do more like kind of necessary. You must to do something for that, but the motivation is just not very that urgent, but eventually, or your wishes, more like, I think it's a motivation is more like your wishes. Ambition is more like urgent to do, but it's kind of similar. What do you think?
Uh, to me, when we say someone is ambitious, it could be like, they want to be CEO, they want to be a movie star. It's kind of like the goal. Whereas in this context, when we talk about motivation, and again, Thabkhe was saying at the beginning of anything we do, we need to set a very proper motivation. That's like the reason why we're doing something. So we want to understand about emptiness, not because we want to be a scholar or famous, but because this knowledge will help us with our emotional life, and eventually we'll be able to help other sentient beings. So I think it's something like that.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I just kind of want to expand on what you just said, because ambition, I mean, at least in my case, one is very self-absorbed, the other is self-driven and selfish. So the qualities of most ambitious people.
Right.
They are self-absorbed. They are got very, they've got ambition. I mean, in the sense that they're driven, but it's mostly focused on their own personal.
Right.
Whereas motivation, it can be universal. It can be motivation to. So it's much more, I would say, not selfish in that. My understanding of ambition per se, because it's very driven.
What you're saying about grasping.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe ambition is more of grasping, and motivation is more of not grasping.
Yeah.
I
Right.
I don't know if that's.
But it's a good to,
I mean, for me, I think there could be an ambitious bodhisattva.
Right.
Then
So,
motivation is different.
Right,
So it's not selfish.
Right. But yeah, I think it's
inherent
right. Most people who are ambitious, they're very focused on worldly goals. I want to be, a millionaire. I want to be a CEO. I want to do this. But even a bodhisattva with a wish to benefit all sentient beings could want to be a billionaire. and say, okay, when I, get all this money, I'll help the poor, I'll invest in, whatever infrastructure. So, yeah.
But then the motivation is different. It's not selfish.
Right.
Right.
I mean, you could have a selfish motivation. That's the thing.
I think ambition is like it could be more than the selfish desires because um, let's assume some kind of revolutionary person who does something for his people. So he could have the ambition that my people should have equal rights or something. So that is also an ambition, but it is beyond the selfish desire because it is including the countrymen or the people also. So in my mind, it is not a clear distinction that ambition is more selfish than the motivation.
Maybe it's the context, of the ambition itself.
Right.
Where it lies the context of the ambition itself. Then we could define it. So I think it starts getting into a discussion, a debate with.
So see, this is the actual debate.
Yes.
Which is we need to be. It's a see. So when it's sometimes in the monastery when we are debating, I wanted to talk. I want to talk, sort of push, and it's everything come up without there's the wrong, no wrong, nobody, you are wrong or right. It's a completely to understanding. So in the motivation here is really important to attitude. You have to take, you know, that's when we are debating. I'm trying to, undermining him. No, no, no. I'm just only focused on the knowledges. So that's really important. Otherwise, we human beings is sometimes easily to take personally to, it's a, when I was at the beginning to study the debate, it's a problem because it's somebody to hurting to me to saying I'm taking very personal. No, this is completely, wrong because it's a, you just basically focus on that subject based on the your understood, based on the your logic, or that's it's really important, right? To proper debate. But then action could be sometimes very loud because I wanted to talk, I wanted to point out my point, something like that. But somehow you can build some sort of enjoyment within that. It's a beauty of the knowledge is when you are trying to understand it, there's some sort of the enjoyment. That's the really key to, it's a part of the way we calling this is also a part of the meditation, because it's eventually you give completely something very very understanding of the nature of some realities. It's a without it's a kind of manipulate to the your other things what sometimes when we do in the human beings. So I really, it's a, I just wanted to stop that.
Can I have a last word?
Okay, sure.
I kind of have a quiz question.
Okay.
It's a joke also, but
It's a fine, total fine. We have to do it's a fine things to it.
When we go out from here,
Mhm.
every day I see all the lamas, monks getting into the autos. In one auto there'll be so many climbing in and going to Kushalagar.
Uh-huh.
So my question is, how many monks can fit into one auto?
So depend on the early time. Nowadays they charge to the 100 rupees for the, and whether they have a one or two. The early times they charge to those one person to the 10 rupees. So at that time they're trying to avoid to the person who little big or heavier. There's a joke in my class. The one person's a little overweight. So we say all the outer drivers doesn't like you, because when you get into there, so you take lots of space, and then you get only charged to the 10 rupees each. So in it's a depend on that. Sometimes there's the monks little tiny, but nowadays they don't care much about it because you anyway charge to the 100.
So I was thinking to myself, how many monks can fit into one auto? The answer is infinite because inherently they are empty.
Right. That's good. Yeah. So thank you very much to coming to all the way to here. It's enjoying, and we will talk more about that informally in the coming days. So and also fortunately that we have a very good scholar, and then also it's a, anything you need to be demand. Tell us, we will try to fix our best, right? Right.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay.
To
Just to announce also for the people on the live stream, we will have these sessions at tomorrow, same time or at 9 o'clock.
what do you think? I'm okay tomorrow. Maybe this time is maybe good, right?
Yeah, actually today we're sorry that we were all kind of little confused about the timings.
Yeah, because
some
I
people kind of didn't know about it.
uh-huh.
So I think, but we can be here tomorrow at 8 o'clock.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
good. That's
Okay.
good for me.
So same time tomorrow. Thank you.
The day the exhibition is from 6 to 8, right? I think anyone who wants to go to one of the monasteries, I think
No,
from
that's,
6 to